So imagine being like one of the top medical professionals in your entire field.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You walk into your commanding officer's office, take a deep breath, and basically ask to be effectively demoted.
Oh, wow. Just giving up all that prestige.
Yeah, exactly. And you do it so you can spend your time, playing with animals. I mean, it sounds like a textbook midlife crisis, right?
Right. I mean, you would expect any reasonable boss to just slide a psychiatric evaluation right across the
You
desk.
really would. But what if that request is actually, I don't know, the ultimate display of professional self-awareness?
It's a wild thought because it's a moment that challenges everything we're taught about career progression. We treat the career ladder as this sacred unidirectional thing, like you either climb up or you just fall off.
Right, there's no in between.
Exactly. But the stack of sources we're analyzing today completely dismantles that idea. We're looking at this really fascinating trove of personnel files, mission logs, and personal communications from the crew of a starship, the USS Arawyn.
And just to set the expectations right out of the gate for you listening, this deep dive into the sources is not about warp core breaches or like diplomatic standoffs with alien armadas.
No, not at all.
We're looking at something far more relatable to you and your own career. We are exploring the organizational psychology of the career pivot. Because how do high-performing individuals manage the realization that they're in exactly the right place, but doing slightly the wrong job?
Yeah, it's a very specific type of professional vertigo. You love the environment, you respect your colleagues, but your actual day-to-day role suddenly feels like a suit that's 2 sizes too small.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
And these ship records, they provide a masterclass in how to navigate that tension, how to handle unexpected setbacks, and really how leadership can either crush or completely cultivate personal growth.
Let's jump right into that alleged midlife crisis, because it involves the ship's chief medical officer, Lieutenant Commander Riah Amberlyn. The logs describe her stepping into the ready room of Captain Sabrina Corbin.
Right, she's super nervous.
Oh, totally. She's sipping a glass of ice water with a squeeze of lemon, clearly just trying to ground herself, and she blurts out that she wants to step down as CMO to become the ship's veterinary medicine doctor.
And the anxiety in her personal logs is just palpable. She literally asks Captain Corbin, is this a midlife crisis? A little early. She is terrified that she's losing her mind.
Because she's essentially asking to abandon the career she spent decades building.
Exactly.
And this is where Captain Corbin does something that completely caught me off guard. She doesn't panic, she doesn't yell, and she definitely doesn't send Amberlyn to the ship's counselor.
No, she's remarkably calm about it.
Yet she just leans back and asks Amberlyn to write down a literal list of pros and cons. And wait, hold on, I have to challenge this right away.
Okay, lay it on me.
Making a pros and cons list sounds incredibly basic. We've all done it when trying to decide like where to order takeout, and it usually just makes me stare at a piece of paper and feel worse.
Right. It's not always super helpful for dinner.
Exactly. So what is Captain Corbin actually doing here neurologically that makes this work for a chief medical officer on the verge of a breakdown?
That is a very fair pushback because on the surface, it really does sound like middle school advice. But the difference here comes down to executive function. It's about how our brains process anxiety.
Okay, break that down for me.
So when a high performer is stuck in an emotional loop, like Amberlyn feeling so guilty for wanting to step down their amygdala, the emotional processing center of the brain is just firing constantly.
So they're essentially stuck in fight or flight mode over their own career choices.
Precisely. It completely hijacks their reasoning. So Corbin isn't just asking for a list. She's employing a psychological tactic to force a shift in blood flow in the brain.
Oh, wow. So by making her write it down?
Yeah, by requiring Amberlyn to physically write down structured, logical points, she is forcing Amberlyn's brain to engage the prefrontal cortex. That's the area responsible for complex decision-making and objective analysis.
That is brilliant.
Right. Corbin actually tells her, the purpose is not to silence one side of the dilemma. It is to work out which one deserves to be heard.
She's externalizing the anxiety, taking it out of Amberlyn's swirling mind and pinning it to a physical medium where it can actually be examined.
Exactly, looking at it objectively.
That completely reframes the exercise. And the result of that prefrontal cortex engagement is that Amberlyn realizes she doesn't actually want to stop being the chief medical officer at all.
Nope. She doesn't hate her job.
She just wants to do the veterinary work without completely burning herself out.
And the solution they arrive at isn't binary. They construct this highly pragmatic compromise. Amberlyn brings in her assistant CMO, Lieutenant Commander Claire Dunross, to take on a larger share of the day-to-day administrative burdens in Sickbay.
Which is delegation functioning perfectly.
Absolutely. And in return, Amberlyn negotiates the use of the science department's zoology clinic twice a week, at the end of her shifts, for pet appointments and alien animal care.
Which gives us this incredibly vibrant glimpse into the ship's science department. Because Amberlyn goes to set this up with the chief science officer, Lieutenant Commander Steve Remington.
Oh, this part of the logs is fantastic.
It really is. The logs note that Remington is casually feeding mice to a massive snake named Mike.
Mike the snake. I love that.
And we find out from the margins of these reports that while Remington was away on a recent mission, his lab techs were running an unauthorized gambling ring on who would succeed in feeding this temperamental reptile.
It's a hilarious detail, but it actually serves a real purpose in understanding the ship's culture. I mean, this isn't some sterile, rigid military vessel. It's a living, breathing community.
Right, it's messy in a good way.
Yeah, that kind of slightly chaotic, vibrant environment is often exactly where creative problem-solving flourishes. And it also highlights the interpersonal dynamics. The logs note this simmering romantic tension between Amberlyn and Remington.
Yeah, they literally schedule a dinner date right after agreeing to share the clinic space.
They do. It's great.
So remodeling the kitchen worked for Amberlyn because she's still on the house. She managed to change her professional trajectory without destroying her established foundation. But I'm looking at this next set of logs, and I'm genuinely confused about how to apply this logic.
Okay, where are we looking now?
We have Lieutenant Commander Sandra Bourne, the former chief engineer. Bourne didn't choose to step back to pursue a passion project. She was sidelined by Starfleet Medical because of a bizarre physical condition.
Right, she's stuck on an extended medical leave.
Yeah, on Starbase 369. So why would she just resign and take a cushy civilian job? Why stay there on medical leave?
Well, you have to look at what serves as Bourne's psychological anchor. Her anchor isn't her physical location in a starship's engine room. It's her core identity as a problem solver. High-performing engineers don't just turn off that mindset when their biology fails.
The medical details here are fascinating, by the way. She suffered a broken leg that healed perfectly fine, but an emergency vaccine interacted poorly with her specific hybrid physiology.
Yeah, it left her with dangerously unstable blood clotting issues.
Right, she's completely fine for normal daily life, but she can't be cleared for starship duty because, well, you cannot have your chief engineer passing out during a warp core casualty.
Exactly. And when her biology failed her, she treated her own body like a starship malfunction. She doesn't just sit in her quarters feeling sorry for herself.
No, she literally builds a miniature subcutaneous monitoring and delivery system. An implant that analyzes her clotting factors in real time and automatically administers counteragents to keep her stable.
It's incredible.
But I have to ask, if Starfleet Medical already told her she's grounded, why is she playing mad scientist on her own blood? They still look at this implant and call it experimental, refusing to clear her.
Yeah, they're not having it.
So she remains stuck in her quarters with this beautiful view of the stars and her 9-month-old cat, Luna, who is perfectly happy using Bourne's work tablets as a bed. I mean, it feels like a massive exercise in futility.
It looks futile if you only measure success by her returning to active duty. But psychologically, this is a textbook example of sublimation.
Sublimation.
Yeah, she is taking an overwhelming, unacceptable frustration, the loss of her bodily reliability and her career trajectory, and channeling it into an acceptable, productive outlet.
Nice.
She engineers a fix because the act of engineering is how she maintains her sense of self. And when she realizes that the implant won't get her back on the ship, she pivots that exact same problem-solving energy into something else.
Right. If she can't physically stand in engineering, she can still shape the person who does.
Exactly. Which brings us to her subspace messages to the acting chief engineer back on the Arawyn, Lieutenant Ryan Collingway. Bourne basically becomes his long-distance mentor.
And we need to talk about why Collingway is so desperate for this mentorship. The logs pull us into this intense flashback to 6 years prior, and it completely alters how you view this officer's sense of duty.
Oh, the environmental storytelling in that flashback is just striking. Picture the planet Shin. It is pouring rain, the streets are cratered with potholes, and an 18-year-old Ryan Collingway is standing on a steel staircase, banging on the door of a Starfleet recruiter in the middle of the night.
Lieutenant Watkins, right. He confesses to the recruiter that he built a water filtration system for a settlement called Minsk. But this wasn't a science fair project.
No, far from it.
He did it to actively bypass a corrupt local government that was charging a premium on clean water. He used his engineering brilliance to undermine a toxic system.
And Lieutenant Watkins gives him a remarkably stark warning. She doesn't just welcome him with open arms and say, "Great job." She tells him that Starfleet is not a get-out-of-trouble card.
Yeah, she lays it all out.
She warns him that if he joins, his honor, his duty, every single part of his character will be put under a microscope.
Which makes Collingway's response absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
He tells her he wants to do things that actually help people, because in a place like Shin, given his family's reputation, the only thing he can become is worse.
Yeah.
He isn't joining out of some noble desire to explore the cosmos. He is running away. I mean, this is pure avoidance motivation, isn't it?
It is avoidance motivation, but it evolves. Starfleet, for Ryan Collingway, acts as a crucible. He's running from a home that is toxic to his soul, and he needs an external structure.
The strict regulations, the chain of command, mentors like Boren.
Yes. He needs all of that to forge himself into someone honorable. He needs the uniform to tell him who he is until he's strong enough to know it himself.
Which creates a brilliant contrast with another officer on the ship, Arawyn, the director of morale, welfare, and recreation, the MWR.
Oh, Allura's story is so good.
She is the person responsible for ensuring the crew doesn't lose their collective minds from the isolation of deep space. And her relationship with the concept of home pulls her in the exact opposite direction of Collingway.
Right. Allura receives a subspace call from her parents, Solara and Joran, back on the pleasure planet of Risa. They show her a sweeping, beautiful, but wildly overgrown coastal resort.
They finally bought it, right?
Yeah, they've spent years saving to buy their own property, and they finally did it. But they are completely overwhelmed. They can handle the daily operations and the cultural programs, but the actual guest experience, the activities, the excursions, the wellness programs needs to be built entirely from scratch.
And the twist here is that they don't look at the screen and say, "We need our daughter to come home." Her father explicitly says,
Right.
"We need our recreation director."
Yes, that is such a key detail.
They are calling the seasoned professional who knows how to build programs for people seeking somewhere they belong.
And that distinction is incredibly important. It serves as a profound validation of her entire career path. I mean, Allura left Risa in the first place because there wasn't much opportunity for someone wanting to build something of their own. It was just too established.
Right, she went to Starfleet to prove herself.
Exactly. To prove that morale and recreation aren't just decorative fluff around the edges of a tactical mission, they are vital to survival. And now, her parents are asking her to take the mastery she earned in the stars and bring it back to the ground.
The emotional weight of this decision is immense. She goes to Captain Corbin to resign, and she's practically in tears. She feels a massive sense of guilt, like she's abandoning her responsibilities to the crew she loves.
It's tough.
But Corbin delivers a piece of leadership wisdom that genuinely stopped me in my tracks. Corbin tells her, leaving something worthwhile does not mean it was a mistake to be there.
It is a vital dismantling of the sunk cost fallacy that plagues so many careers.
Oh, absolutely.
We're culturally conditioned to view leaving a job as either a failure, an escape, or a graduation to something objectively better, like a promotion or a higher salary. But Corbin reminds Allura that career moves can be lateral, based entirely on internal readiness.
She can be immensely proud of the difference she made on the Arawyn and still recognize that her training arc is complete.
The whole exchange is deeply touching, but Allura still brings her classic humor to it. Before she leaves the ready room, she offers Corbin a captain's package for when she eventually visits the resort on Risa.
Complimentary villa upgrades, and crucially, absolutely no mandatory organized activities.
Which, Corbin notes, is the single perk that truly seals the deal. But if we synthesize these two journeys, Starfleet acts as a crucible for both Ryan Collingway and Allura Wren, but with inverse trajectories.
Right. Ryan needed a place to run to in order to build his character from the ground up.
And Allura used it as a training ground so she would finally be ready to return home and build a legacy of her own. When she goes to say goodbye to Ryan, their farewell kiss highlights two ships passing in the night, both heading exactly where they need to be.
It really does. But, you know, listening to all these disparate logs, Amberlyn's pivot, Bourne's forced reassignment, Collingway's search for honor, Allura's departure, I keep coming back to the environment.
What do you mean?
None of this immense crew growth happens by accident. It requires a command structure that is incredibly, almost terrifyingly self-aware.
Oh, absolutely. A starship is a closed ecosystem. If the command structure is rigid, punitive, or heavily micromanaged, these nuanced personal journeys just get crushed under the weight of regulation.
Yeah, they'd never survive.
But Captain Corbin and her executive officer, Commander Susanna Battenberg, they deliberately cultivate an atmosphere where vulnerability is met with guidance, not a reprimand.
Case in point. The ship's chief security officer, Lieutenant Commander Riah. The logs detail him being called to the captain's ready room. As he's walking into the turbo lift, his holographic ring companion, a program named Ignis, flickers to life.
I love the Ring AI.
Yeah. It warns him to prepare for either a commendation, a reprimand, or a mysterious reassignment. So Flamia is visibly tense. He steps into the room, silences his holographic ring, and faces Corbin and Battenberg.
Preparing for the worst.
Right, but they don't dress him down. They ask him for a self-evaluation of his first year as a department head.
And how he responds to that request is the true test.
Wait, I have to jump in here, because in most corporate environments, a surprise self-evaluation from the boss is a trap.
Oh, 100%.
It's a psychological trick to make you admit your own faults on the record before they fire you or deny your bonus. Why isn't Flamia immediately on the defensive?
Because Corbin has already established psychological safety, which flips the script on the self-evaluation, she isn't looking for a confession of mistakes. She is conducting an assessment of his metacognition.
His ability to think about his own thinking.
Exactly. Can Flamia objectively analyze his own leadership style?
And he proves that he can. Flamia is brutally honest. He admits that he and his young security team have had to rely on a lot of trial and error. But the most striking part is when he confesses to bringing an unrefined intensity to his work and admits he's been actively trying to soften it.
That is incredible, raw self-awareness regarding his own flaws.
Yeah.
And that metacognition is exactly what Corbin is looking for. She points out that she fully expects him to have room to grow, that arriving in a command position as a finished product is a biological impossibility.
That's a great way to put it.
What matters to her is that he examined his decisions rather than reflexively defending them. And because of that maturity, because he can critique his own unrefined intensity, she promotes him on the spot to lieutenant commander.
It's an amazing moment of leadership. But digging through these logs made me wonder, how does a captain maintain the emotional bandwidth to guide all these different people?
It's a lot to carry.
You have medical officers having existential crises, security chiefs wrestling with their intensity, recreation directors leaving. How does Corbin stay grounded enough to handle everyone else's baggage?
Well, the records give us an answer to that, and it is delightfully unconventional. We see a detailed account of how Captain Corbin spends her free time.
Yeah, she doesn't just meditate or read tactical reports in silence.
Not at all. She is actively harness training her pet, a massive, thick-furred, red tabby cat named Ptolemy.
The description of this cat is fantastic. He has this dramatic tail that fans out when he's excited, and he treats the captain's quarters like an obstacle course. Corbin has been slowly taking him out into the corridors, getting him used to the ship's environment.
Taking it one step at a time.
Right. And on this particular day, they get into a turbolift and go down to Deck 10.
Which happens to be the primary security deck.
Exactly. The doors open, and they step directly into the middle of a massive security drill. Alarms are blaring. Officers with training phasers are jogging past, shouting orders. It is absolute organized chaos. Now, most cats would panic in that scenario.
They turn into a blender of claws and bolt.
Yep. But what does Corbin do? She doesn't scoop him up and run away to protect him from the noise. She stands her ground. When Ptolemy's tail expands magnificently and he gets overstimulated, she simply uses treats and a calm, steady voice to bring his focus back to her.
She just keeps placing herself back in his field of vision.
Yeah, and right in the middle of this, Flamia and another commander, McKinney, walk by. They see their captain, in the middle of a high-stress tactical drill, casually treating a cat with a puffed-up tail.
It's such a funny image.
They are utterly bewildered, but they maintain this hilarious professional composure, and Corbin just smirks at them and says, "Carry on."
It is a highly amusing visual, but you really have to look at the psychological mechanism at work here. This is a profound example of psychological scaffolding.
Oh, how so?
Corbin is engaged in an exercise of extreme environmental control. She is exposing a subordinate entity, in this case, the cat, to high-stress triggers while physically remaining a calm, immutable anchor in the room. She's letting the cat process the chaos without letting the chaos consume the cat.
That is exactly it. Leadership is essentially harness training a cat in a busy starship corridor. It's not about controlling every single movement your people make, and it's definitely not about extinguishing their natural curiosity or their ambitions.
No, not at all.
It's about providing a safe, reliable anchor while the environment changes around them. That is exactly what she does for Flamia during his self-evaluation. It's what she does for Amberlyn when she demands the pros and cons list. It's what she does for Laura when she validates her departure.
And when you look at the overarching lesson from all these disparate personnel files, it becomes blindingly clear that growth is rarely linear.
Yeah, it's messy.
Finding where you belong and thriving once you get there requires a tremendous amount of deep, honest self-awareness. Whether it's carving out a highly specific hybrid niche like Dr. Amberlyn, or finding a new avenue for your core identity when your physical body forces you to step back, like Commander Boren.
Or knowing when your training is finally complete and it's time to chart a course for home like Allura.
Exactly.
So, what does this all mean for you listening right now? I want you to look at your own life, at your own career crossroads. If you are feeling that professional vertigo we talked about at the beginning, are you treating your desire for change as a crisis that you just need to suppress until it goes away?
A lot of people do that.
Yeah, but are you actually taking the time, engaging that prefrontal cortex to sit down with a piece of paper and write out the pros and cons? Are you wanting to see that remodeling the kitchen might be an option instead of burning the whole house down?
And this raises a critical point about how we view the things outside of our primary roles, too. We often view our side projects or our eccentricities, like Boren engineering a complex medical implant for herself despite being grounded, or a starship captain spending hours harness training a red tabby cat, as distractions.
We think they're taking time and energy away from our real work.
Exactly.
But what if those unconventional pursuits aren't distractions at all? What if they are the exact grounding exercises that give us the clarity, the patience, and the emotional capacity to actually lead in our day jobs? If you were only ever focused on the warp core, you might completely neglect the very thing that keeps your own personal engine running.
That is a fundamental truth of organizational psychology. You really cannot sustain high performance without an anchor that is entirely yours.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources today. We hope pulling back the curtain on the crew of the Arawyn helps you navigate whatever crossroads you might be standing at right now. Remember, leaving something worthwhile doesn't mean it was a mistake to be there. Good luck out there, and we'll catch you next time.